How is it possible that we could weigh ourselves right before we go to sleep at night? And then we go to sleep, we don't use the bathroom at all, but when we wake up, we weigh much less. I'm gonna answer that question as well as Mac's question. Hi Mac, I know you've been waiting for this answer for a long time, so let me try to do it justice. The dawn phenomenon or dawn effect, what is it? How does it work? Most people have never given thought to the fact that when we wake up in the morning, we're actually not very hungry. Not only that, if you're actually measuring your sugars, you'll notice that when you wake up first thing in the morning, early morning around dawn, the sugars are actually higher than you would expect them to be. Think about it, you've been asleep for the last 8 hours or sometimes more, and yet you have blood sugar in your system as if you've eaten food. How's that possible? Sometimes throughout the night, your blood sugars might be volatile. You might see them go up or down, and that's weird because you haven't been eating, you've been sleeping, right? Here's how it works. When we're eating food throughout the day, some of the excess glucose gets stored in the liver as glycogen, and other excess glucose can get stored in fat cells as fat. Think of your liver like your refrigerator, and think of your fat cells like your freezer. Those are places where you can store glucose, you can store energy that you can use when you're fasting. Even though our bodies are sleeping at night, there's lots of metabolic processes that have to maintain, things like breathing, right? And so once the body's done using all the food fuel from dinner, it will start to tap into the glycogen stored in the liver. It'll get food out of the fridge or out of the freezer from our fat cells to help our body continue to have energy. And so the dawn phenomenon is the fact that in the morning, even though we haven't eaten anything for 8, 10, 12 hours, we oftentimes have glucose in our bloodstream and are ready to get started for the day. Most people think that once they run out of food fuel, what's gonna happen is their blood sugar is just gonna get lower and lower, they're gonna become weaker and more lethargic, and eventually they're gonna fall down and die. But if that was the case, then hundreds, thousands of years ago, when hunters were out looking for food, when they were starving for their next meal, and they were out walking around in the snow, they would have died and we would have been completely extinct as a species, right? Instead, what happens is our body is very, very good at turning the hundreds of thousands of calories of stored energy we have on our body, stored as fat, into fuel when we're fasting. And some of that happens through the night. And this is why if you weigh yourself before going to bed at night, right? If you weigh yourself before going to bed at night, even if you don't use the bathroom at all through the night, you'll notice that you wake up weighing less than you did when you went to sleep. And that's because water, as well as perhaps some of the fat that's stored in our liver, some of the glycogen in our liver, some of the fat cells, when that's turned into glucose, our body uses that energy and eventually gets exhaled. We breathe it out as CO2. I know you've been waiting a long time for me to finish this explanation for you. I hope that this helps.